Hello, everyone. I wanted to go over some thoughts about how we can work with our table of evidence and create it, and maybe keep some notes on some of our sources as we are working on writing our capstone paper. So we have this assignment here in Canvas, and we have an example of the problem statement that you're going to be working towards. So that's useful as you are searching for literature to keep in mind, what kinds of things you might be looking for. And we have this template for a table of evidence. And I've downloaded that here in my computer. A tool that I thought I might show you guys is called Miro. It's a whiteboarding software that works online. And I believe there's a free version that you can just sign up for and have up to 3 whiteboards that you can edit. Or I think there is a basic paid version that's about $8 a month that I've signed up for that lets you create as many whiteboards as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new whiteboard, and you'll see this comes up and it asks me if I want to use a template, and I'm going to just close that because I'm just going to use this plain whiteboard. You can give your whiteboard a name by clicking over here on the title, and I'll call this Table of Evidence. And after you rename it, you just need to click outside of the pop-up window, and that window will go away, and you'll see I now have a name here. I like to work in this whiteboard software because it lets me navigate things quickly. You do not have to use this. You can use whatever you want, but I'm going to open up this Word document template in here in Miro, and I'm going to you see I downloaded it, and I'm just going to drag it into the whiteboard. And you'll see it takes a second, and then it shows up. You'll see that I just kind of re-centered myself on this whiteboard. You can move around. This took me a little bit to get used to, but after you get used to it, it's not so bad. If you right-click anywhere in the page, you'll see your pointer changes to a hand, and you can drag wherever you want. You can actually zoom in and out. Here I'm using the scroll wheel on my mouse, and rolling up makes it bigger, rolling down makes it smaller. You'll notice you can also do that same thing using the buttons here on the side of the board. And this is our example template for an evidence table. And we have some basic headings across the top, and then we've got some notes on some example notes here on a couple of articles. And these can be adapted. You guys may or may not really be interested in the instruments used. You can, delete these columns, rename them to anything you want. You're free to use this example in Word, which this was originally. You're free to do it in Excel. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to set up a table here in Miro. This little grid-looking icon lets you do tables. I don't think that tool shows on this toolbar automatically. I think I had to go into more tools and find the one I want and drag it into my whiteboard, but I'm going to take it back out because I don't want that one there. And you'll see that I have put tables over here where I can get to them easily, but you don't have to. You can just click on the little arrows and go find the one you want. But to make a new table, I'm just going to click on tables and click down here in the bottom, and you'll see that if you click on an object in the whiteboard, you can drag it around to wherever you want. This table is, customizable. You can make the cells as big or small as you want to. You can add more rows or columns by just clicking. If you hover over a column, and then you'll see you have a plus sign to the right. I could easily put one on the other side. Same thing with rows. So it's pretty flexible. If I wanted to replicate this table, we'll put in citation, and you'll see that you can actually do some formatting here. This one is the alignment, and we can change the horizontal and the vertical alignment to center those, and you can create whatever columns you want to. So I think I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about these citations. So I use this citation manager called EndNote. There's a number of them out there. You can try them. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, but I think this one is available from the Office of Software Licensing for a pretty reasonable price while you're a student. So up to you if you want to use it or not. When you're looking for citations, a lot of sources for literature will give you an option to download a citation. So here, like in Google Scholar, you can either search by topic, or if you know the name of your article, you can just start typing it in. Often with, a good chunk of the title in there, it's going to bring up the one you're looking for. And in this case, if you hit Cite, you can click on one of these options. Most citation managers will accept a couple of these, but I know I'm in EndNote, and if I clicked on that and then opened up the file that downloads while EndNote is open, it will import that for me automatically. If you're not using a citation manager, you'll see Google Scholar gives you several citation styles to work with, and we're in APA, so you could just copy this and paste it into your articles. So PubMed, I think, lets you download citations. Google Scholar does, and many other databases, literature databases, give you an option somewhere to download a citation. So I would recommend you kind of pick a system and use it. If I am in EndNote and I have a certain citation that I want to look at, I can select it and go up to References and go to Copy Formatted Reference. And that is really useful to paste into your reference table, or your evidence table. So I would suggest just getting the full reference and then making sure it's in there. I would recommend don't make the mistake of reading something and liking something you saw and then writing something in your paper thinking you're going to go back and find the reference later. It's really hard to do. It ends up being a lot of work in the long run. So while you are looking at it, go copy the full reference down in your evidence table or in your citation manager, and then you have it. Also, don't make the mistake of writing something in your paper and not writing the reference. So, and I guess we could probably, if we're going to be a little more correct, this is actually the reference, and the citation would be what we put in text. Usually APA, we're looking at a citation like that. So always keep your citations with the material that you're going to use in your paper. Don't try to go look it up later, because it gets really hard to do, and it's easy to forget to do, and then that's plagiarism. So always keep the citation with the information that you're working with from a source. I had one other thing that's easy to do with this tool is I have tried it out, and I was able to select the information in a table and paste it directly into Excel. So I have used Excel for some very text heavy things like this, and it works okay. Sometimes it's a little hard to navigate, and sometimes Excel's auto formatting, it will make cells taller automatically. Sometimes it's a little frustrating, and you don't have the ability like you do here to zoom in and out and move around the page quite as easily. So I personally find this a little bit easier, but you are 100% free to use whatever tool you think works for you. I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about taking notes. So, these categories are really useful if you're doing more of a lit review, and comparing a lot of evidence. We're doing more of a quality improvement project. So again, you might, like the purpose and the study design are useful. The strength of evidence, that comes from this Johns Hopkins strength of evidence rating scale. That's useful, but this doesn't just have to be research studies. This can be all the literature you're using in your paper, and you're going to kind of summarize what you're going to do. And you'll notice in this example, they have some study findings. Maybe you're interested in study findings, or maybe you're just interested in something, that they said in another part, whether that's the discussion or introduction or something. So you might want to take some more extensive notes. So I have an example of some notes that I was taking from this book called The Craft of Research, and it's a general book on writing, especially about writing up research. And this is a very general book. I like it quite a bit. There's a lot of good ideas, but it is not specifically for capstone or quality improvement papers like ours. So it has some very general information, and it may take a bit of thinking to think of how it applies. But I wanted to show you guys, as I've gone through this source, looking at, what are some useful ideas. I was keeping some notes just for myself, that I could, focus more on the parts that I thought were useful for me and for the things that we do. And this was a useful demonstration of something that we can keep. So you'll notice that I was able to go into a part and put in some bullets. And if you click in your cell, you'll see you can start a bulleted list there. And it works just like our bullet lists usually do. We can tab and indent and get some different levels in there. And I just thought I'd give you guys an example of how I kept some notes on here. I have my full reference here, and then as I have pulled out different parts, I'm just summarizing key points here, but you'll notice I did keep my citation there, and I actually kept some page numbers so that if I wanted to go back and look at this again, I could do so. So this is just useful for you to be able to go back and read something again and find it quickly. So I would kind of suggest that to you. Something else that is useful as you're reading is you might be keeping notes, but you might have some thoughts about how it might be useful for you. So you might, either put your own thoughts in parentheses or square brackets or curly braces or greater than, less than signs, some way to kind of set off the information that's from your source from your thoughts about it. And I do think it's quite useful to jot down, why you think something is useful and how you might use it, that you can come back to later, but do use some sort of a system. You can actually, in Miro, you can highlight, and you have several colors to choose from. So you could do highlighting, but I also kind of like doing things in brackets. And another reason for that is you can search for text in Miro. So you could click on the search button and search for specific phrases and things. So that might be useful, if you have things that you think are useful for the introduction or methods, you could go search and then pop through your notes on what the things you thought were interesting and find them back out again. I did actually have a couple points from this book I thought I would just mention to you guys because I think they're useful for helping you to find evidence and decide if it's going to be useful for you or not. And they had some tips for just looking at things quickly. And the first place to start, is to read the title and then to read the abstract. And, is there anything in the abstract that jumps out at you as useful for the project that you're working on? And then from there, you might skim the introduction and conclusion. Again, see if there's anything interesting there. If there does seem to be, then you can go through and look at, the section headings and maybe read the first and last paragraph of those sections. If you don't find anything in an article that seems like it's leading you down the right path, it's probably good to stop there, and there's no reason to spend a lot of time reading something that's not going to be productive for you. So you can just move on. Otherwise, you can go through and read the paper more closely and then keep some notes on it, on the things that you think might be interesting. Also, another useful tactic sometime is to check the reference section from a paper. If it's in a topic that you think is that you're working on, sometimes they might have good references that you can go look up yourself also. So that's a good search strategy. And just some information about sources as you work on your article. You want to make sure you get your full reference information. In journal articles, that's the author, title, the title of the journal, the volume and issue number, the date when it was published, page numbers for the article, if you got this online, the URL, and the date you accessed it. So those are all useful things, and you'll see that when I've kept notes, I've kept my reference here, and then you can keep your notes to move forward with that. Something else that would be potentially useful for you guys is this APA style guide. And so with this apastyle.apa.org, I would probably suggest you buy your own APA manual, but if you don't have your manual with you or you don't have one yet, this is probably a great online resource. And so this is from APA, and you can see that there's different links that you can go to look at different parts. And so here we can see we've got a reference section and reference examples, and so you can see you got different types of text works. If we go to journal article reference, you can see now you're going to see some basic examples. So this is probably a useful thing to have bookmarked apastyle.apa.org, and you can see how you want to do your reference, because you definitely want to record your full reference information and cite them appropriately as you're working, and collecting that as you go is the best strategy. These tables that you make can be exported to a PDF. In Miro, you can use this frame tool, and so I'm going to click on that and go custom, and you'll see that doesn't quite fit. I can click on it and drag it over, and then I can resize this frame tool, and so you can make separate tables. And something that I might recommend is creating a your evidence grid with kind of your summary of your articles and what you thought were useful about them and some useful information. But if you're going to keep notes, I might recommend that you actually make two tables on your whiteboard, and one of them is for your notes, because these can get pretty long. So, and then you can actually put a frame around both of your tables, and when you export it, this little button up here is the export button. If you click on that, you can save things as a PDF, and each frame will turn into its own page in the PDF. So that is a nice way that you can export this and have it usable for something else. One thing about taking notes that I discovered as I was taking notes about this book is these cells do have a 6,000 character limit. So if you run into, you're taking notes, and I was doing this on a book, so it got pretty long. If you run into a limit, you can just make a new row with your new, continue your citation, and you can keep taking notes, and you can break it up a little bit. But just be aware that there is this 6,000 character limit on these cells in Miro. And again, you don't have to use this tool, but you can use whatever you want. I just find this pretty easy for navigation purposes. The other challenge that I think you're going to run into is, I know you guys haven't written a lot of papers, and you might look at what are the main sections of our paper that we're going to be working on, and we're going to have an introduction, and then methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. And as you're keeping your notes, you might think about which section this might be useful for, and this is a little hard as you're starting to write, and we're going to try and break it down into kind of a step-by-step process. So we're going to focus on some of our upcoming assignment is a problem statement, and that will end up fitting into the introduction. You might have some background on that, and again, that is going to end up in the introduction. But as you're keeping your notes, you might keep notes to yourself of what sections you might find interesting, and then as we develop these things, you can take some of these notes that you think are relevant and maybe put it on a sticky note. Miro does have these sticky notes here. You can click on it and you can pick any color you want and drag it over, and You know, it's very easy to, let's go copy something. It's really easy to copy, you know, one of your notes out and then put it into a sticky note, and then it's really easy to take that sticky note and arrange it. You know, maybe you're trying to work on an order of something and you decide, I don't like that order. You can kind of reorder it and plan a little bit. You know, this is just some ideas of how it might be useful for you. And then, you know, you might have a bit of a plan and then you can write up certain parts. So I just thought I would show you guys some of these ideas for creating your evidence grid and maybe keeping some notes on your sources as you're working through this to help you with some of these steps. I don't think I had anything else major that I was gonna show you. So I think those are the main points. I hope that this is helpful, and let me know if you have questions, and we can try and work through things as we go along. Have a good day.